Produced by Podcast Architects.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Get Better at Business. I'm Travis Richards, and it is my pleasure to have with me veteran, founder, CEO, mother of dragons, Sheena Parker. Thank you so much for being here. Delighted to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So the first thing, you promised me some, you were very recently retired from the Army. And so congratulations for that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And you promised me to run through the PG list of things that you have been doing since you have, that you are now allowed to do that you were not before. I noticed the fingernails. And so if you're listening and not watching, Sheena's got some mad fingernails that do not within the, not within the uniform regs
at all
in the Army. So
yes,
how long were you out before you went nuts with the fingernails?
Well, it's funny. Since it's 2022, I kind of transitioned a little earlier than most because of COVID. So really, I hadn't had my uniform on for quite some time. So my nails just got a little longer and longer, and I was pushing a little bit. And I have to go have drill, so let me only have it during this time. Drill was like every other month or even that. So yeah, it was. I kind of transitioned 2 years ago.
Do you remember the last time that you put on your uniform?
I do. It was February 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts at the moment? Did you kind of appreciate at the time, like, hey, this is the last time I'm going to be doing this, or was it just kind of a passing thing? What was your experience?
I had no idea it was my last time, because since the whole world shut down, I was just doing what I had been doing. I had just came off of active duty in October of 2019. So, I was working kind of like still full time, like 3 weeks on and 2 weeks off and 1 week on. So I was kind of doing that little pattern. And maybe January was the first time that I was going back to regular drill, like the 1 week in a month. So that was like my second drill since I kind of came off the reserve active duty. And I was just, back to being a reservist. It wasn't even really anything I thought. I don't even remember what I thought, to be honest. I mean,
well, it's and how many years of service did you have?
20.
Right on the number, huh?
Yeah.
So do you miss it at all?
I have nostalgic moments. I'll say, if I see something online and I'm, it's more like the basic training and stuff like that, like the training aspect. Once I became an officer, like it was great for what it was worth, but that whole political stuff, it wasn't anything that I really wanted to subscribe to. So, yeah.
Well, I remember I remember the last time that I put on the uniform and just kind of like, and, my experience was different because I was, in the process, I'd, put in all my paperwork. I knew, months in advance, hey, this is going to be your last day. And, we had a little party or whatever. And I just remember being there and being like, dude, this is the last time that I'm going to be in uniform. It was kind of weird. And, that was actually one of my last year in the Air Force. I was working in a civilian building where we weren't allowed to wear a uniform, actually. And so I didn't spend a lot of my last year in uniform, but it was weird that that's kind of one of the things that it turns out that I missed, is that I missed seeing myself in the uniform in the mirror. It was something I was proud to do. And so it was
for the last time. Yeah. I guess that's pretty similar. I guess I would really say my last time, like really, really being a super soldier, was October of 2019. I mean, I had just came back from knowledge management school, and that was a very intense course. And I was at Fort Leavenworth. I'm like, not Leavenworth. I'm sorry, Leavenworth. And I'm like, this is the worst place on earth. And I was there for almost a month, and I come back and boom, I'm off of active duty. So I was like, I got my last hoorah in one of the worst trainings ever. So that's what I kind of go back to when I think about my last time in uniform.
Well, there's you could have been, at Fort Leavenworth under different circumstances, wearing a different uniform, and so that's
We got to get the small wins. Yes, I was not
yes, that's
there
right.
in serving any kind of unwanted term. So yes.
Yeah, that's right. For anybody that doesn't get the inside joke, Fort Leavenworth is like where you go to jail if you get, thrown into jail while you're in the Army. So it's anyway. Glad you didn't get stuck there for that reason. But so I'm always fascinated to talk to veterans about starting their new business and what that experience was like for you. Like, just kind of walk us through what happened. It's like, you're out and then you started the business right after that, or what was your transition like into becoming a founder and starting a business?
Yeah, so for me, I've always, and I've said this in other interviews, but I've always been an entrepreneur. Throughout my life, even long before I thought about the military, I was doing little stuff. I mean, you compare it to what you have now, and you're like, okay, that was really nothing, but it was still like the entrepreneurship bug was always in me since age 12. And so I had a couple of actual like brick and mortar businesses throughout my military career, just I mean, now hindsight, they were small, but they were still something. So I got a lot of tutelage out of all of those things. And so in 2014, I started really, I always loved kind of like real estate and stuff like that. And I kind of got into real estate ish. And then, my husband's always kind of like nurtured that out of all the stuff I've ever done. He like nurtured the real estate thing. I guess it was the easiest thing to kind of understand. And so he bought me my first condo, and it was like absolutely terrible. It was the worst, one of the worst purchases I've ever had in my life. And so, with that comes lessons. And so we always take the lessons. And I was still wanting to do real estate. So then I just like unconventionally started buying other properties. It was weird, like financing different types of ways, lease purchase, all these other things. And so I ended up with like 6 houses. And then the seventh was the house that we lived in. I don't know how it happened. It was just like rapid fire. And so
when
then
you say unconventional, like, I mean, I guess just kind of walk me through that. It's like, of course, like I think most people that are probably listening, my only experience with buying a house is one that I intended to live in. I haven't done the rental property thing. And I certainly haven't done any, even been exposed to something that somebody would call unconventional. And so what exactly does that mean when you're buying these 6 or 7 houses in an unconventional way?
Okay, well, that's a really good question, actually. Lease to purchase is very unconventional, like where you put a certain amount down and it's through a landlord. The landlord is the bank. And so you just pay them a certain amount. And it's usually when you're subletting, or, well, not even subletting, you're just renting out the property. So it's kind of like one of the easier ways to be a landlord is that way, besides owning your own home and you move out of it and rent that property. That's the easiest. The second, to me, in my opinion, is lease purchase, because that person, for whatever reason, found the need, and they're usually cheaper, blah, blah, blah. And then another way, I was wholesaling. And so I kind of gained custody of the property. That was a mess. So all these different ways were like, oh, I need to borrow some money. I had another person who did a interest only loan, which never, ever, 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 ever do. So, I just—
Wait a second. Wait. I'm sorry. I missed that.
One more ever.
Your opinion about the lease, about the interest only loan was what again?
Never, ever, 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 ever do. But I was just like, oh, I got a property, so all those different ways. I ended up with all these properties, quickly realized that I absolutely hate being a landlord, and my temper did not fit the bill. So I was like, I can't do this. And then I was flipping. I flipped 2 houses, and I was wholesaling because I kind of transitioned to wholesale, and I sold the properties. I was like, if anyone says landlord or real estate to me, I'm going to cut them. I cannot deal with this. It's not my thing. And so, but I was still kind of like had the real estate bug lingering, and I was not an agent. So I'm like trying to play with the agent idea. I even went to a real estate appraisal school.
Okay.
That was horrible. So maybe another never. That was very stressful. So I did that for a little while, and the conversation about government contracting kept coming up in different conversations. And I'm like, what is this government contract? I don't even know what you're saying. I don't get it at all. Oh, well, you're a Black female veteran. You'll get all these contracts and money will be raining down on you. That was what was presented. So I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I'm there. I'm sorry. Can I?
Oh, yeah. No, we say way worse stuff than that.
Okay. Just making sure.
Speak from the heart, Sheena. Speak from the heart. That's all I ask.
I was like, hell yeah, I'm trying to get to this money. So I started researching, and back then around 2015, 2016, there wasn't a whole lot of information out about government contracting. It was just dry and boring, and it wasn't clear. But then I just started just diving in, and I started my business in 2017, still kind of under the real estate thing. And then I just bid in 2018 and I won. And I was like, this is easy. Like, what? They didn't mess up. You know, I'm about to be a billionaire. And the contract, I had to cancel the contract.
Oh, no. What happened?
In my mind, I thought the price was going to be A. And mind you, I was doing real estate, so I had a contractor, you know. So in my mind, it was going to be price A. My contractor said, hell no, it's price B. And that equals me coming out of pocket. So C equals cancel the contract.
Gotcha.
There's no way we can do this. And I just got lucky that I didn't get, you know, like canceled, like cancel culture canceled, because there was a clause in there that I kind of fortunate that I made out on.
So it's funny, you know, like everything leading up to this, you know, there's always a lot of like, oh man, this was so crazy. This was totally messed up. That was a terrible idea, whatever. But now you're talking about the government contracting thing, and I'm not hearing that in there, even though you're like, first time I had to cancel the contract, turns out that it wasn't these, you know, magic beans that they were told me that it was going to be. But I'm not hearing you say like, oh yeah, that was a big disaster. Don't ever do that again. So is this something that, you know, what was it about that kind of stuck?
About like, why was I okay with that cancellation?
No, with just government contracting in general. I mean, it's just like, I think that experience would have scared off a lot of people. You know, it seems like you're very quick to say, hey, this was maybe kind of a mistake, not a right move. I won't do that again. But cancel a contract, I think a lot of other people would have been like, dude, enough of this. This is way too messed up. But you're sticking with it. So what was it that was cool about it that wasn't about some of your other mistakes, I guess? Why was this not a mistake? That's my question. Why was this one not a mistake?
Well, I bid on my second one and I won, and it was 6 figures. Okay. Now, like I said before, I wasn't making, you know, I was probably making $1,000 a month with some of my other businesses, which in my mind, that was great because I already had jobs, you know? Yeah. So with this, I'm like, I won, you know, $100 and something $1,000 contract, and I had no idea what I was doing. And it just, I happen, you know, everything is divine. I believe in things working out the way they're supposed to. And so with this particular contract, I had my contractor. We went to the site visit. He impressed them. He wowed them. And so when we gave our quote, you know, he told me to ask for an advance, and they gave me the advance, $70,000 check. Wow. Now I'm a believer. I was like, I could just run in my mind. I'm running to damn Jamaica, and with this money, you know, like, wow, how irresponsible of them. But of course, now I know this can be done. I know I can not have a whole lot of money and start this. And then I have someone I trust that I've done work with that can execute. This is perfect. Like, why is everyone not doing this? You know, and it just kind of went from there.
So So that was the second one, worked out there. Like, you know, did you find that the subsequent deals were, you know, just as fun and easy, or did you run into other, you know, did you have another rude awakening along the way that kind of shocked you back into reality, or is it still all sunshine and rainbows?
Oh gosh, no, it's almost never sunshine and rainbows. I mean, sometimes, you know, the money makes you feel a lot better when you get it. Yep. But the third one that I won, I had, so this is like the turn of 2018 to 2019. 2019, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but it is a time to kind of recalibrate and say, what can I do different? So I ended up finding someone by way of another friend that I trusted that does contract writing. And so I committed to the money per month, even though, you know, I did that one and done other contract, but the money's gone, you know, it's like gone. And so I was paying this out of my actual check, and I had to make that commitment to pay her. And she won the third one. And it was in something, I thought I was going to be a flooring contractor. I didn't know the first 2 ones that I won were flooring. So this was janitorial. And I'm like, janitorial? What? Hell no. But she was like, this would be really good for your company. So she took me through.
Because you get the, you know, it was the recurring revenue that was attractive, you know. Yeah.
and it was a good agency. So then we just started kind of doing that, and I mean the lessons in that were immense. And then I was like, this is I'm like a L7 thinker. I need it to be very straightforward. I don't want to guess. I don't want to have to chase anybody down for any money. I want to know, even if I get paid late, like the government often does, I know I'm getting paid. I might have to beat down some doors, but when you deal with, in my opinion, when I'm dealing with any kind of commercial or residential, and you have to like almost fight people or end up going to jail because you don't get your money, that was not for me. I'm like, no. I've been there, done that. So I just was like, this can be easy if I work it right.
Yeah.
Easier.
And
higher revenue. Like, I don't want to have to fight for $100 per product. Like, if I'm gonna fight, I want to fight for 50,000. Like, that's better for me.
I remember, my dad, who was, running the business that I own now before I bought it from him, whenever he was, he got that start because my grandfather started this business in this manufacturing business in a closet in the back of this tractor dealership that he was running with my uncle. And one of the things that he talked about was, he's selling to all of these, ranchers that are like out in East Texas. And he said they would not be satisfied unless they felt like I was losing money on the deal. And he's like, I would work my ass off to make $100
to the bone.
Yeah. And then he said, then he got into this other business or whatever. And he's just like, now I'm not having to wrestle, dollars out of people's hands. It's like, I'm selling to people that actually, that have money. And that was something that he was like, I didn't know that. It's like, this is a strategy that I'm going to stick with for the rest of my life. I'm just going to sell to people that have money. And, I guess the government by definition, hey, if they run out, they can just print more. Right. So it's, the
biggest buyer. Why not?
Yeah. So it sounds like, as you get into the contracting stuff, you start out, in, kind of some, you said flooring, right, was the first ones that y'all were doing. And then you get into the janitorial stuff. And so did it continue to branch off? Did you continue to, find other new different things, or did you ever settle in and say, this is the kind of stuff that I want to focus on?
Well, with, I think a part that I kind of left out when I transitioned from real estate is that the renovations that we were kind of doing what translated into facility maintenance on the government contracting side. So facility maintenance is janitorial, flooring, painting, grounds maintenance, litter pickup, pressure washing. It's all the things. And so when I would see something, I'm like, oh, we can do that. Well, I had the one contractor. So he had someone for everything, HVAC. And so each one of those things also have their own NAICS code or have their own, identity, and you can do those things. But it just it worked out to where I could bid on all of the things that fall under facility maintenance. And so janitorial, of course, with 2020, it took over. It was about 80% at one point. But personally, I'm trying to graduate out of janitorial. I shouldn't say graduate because you can make a lot of money with janitorial, but it's very subjective. Whereas if you pressure wash a building or a stadium, it's pressure washed. No one's like, oh my God, you missed a spot. It's pressure washed. That's it. If you do litter pickup, it's a little more subjective, but you know that in 5 minutes, someone's going to throw trash, but you know that the overall trash has been picked up. Those types of things. I like painting a little bit, but it's been painted. But janitorial, it's like, there's a crumb right here. The whole place is filthy. It's disgusting. I can't even walk in here. And that just becomes very, very overwhelming. So that's where it's no longer sunshine and rainbows. It's tornadoes, tsunamis, all the bad things. And you're just like, why do I keep bidding on these things?
Well, that's a good question. So why do you keep bidding on them? If it's
just so tempting. Like they're so tempting. We bid on one. We just lost. It was in Miami. And it was like a $1.2 million janitorial contract. And all they needed was staff. I'm like, I could do that. Come on. They just need staff. Like, that's easy. And then my program manager was like, are you sure we want to bid on this? And I'm like, it's the VA. It's not going to be that bad. And I'm like, why? I don't know. It just becomes so enticing sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's, but it sounds like, there's a little bit of a recurring theme there is that even with some of these, some of your history within real estate and kind of, all these learning experiences, it sounds like you're very much like say yes first and figure it out as you go kind of a person.
So the plane on the way down. Oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah. And so,
I'm a Leo. That's what we do.
So,
like,
so okay, if you now I'm going to ask for some, I'm going to ask for some free advice because I'm very much not that way. I'm a very, a little bit, there's some people that, shoot a little too quick from the hip. And then there's people like me that sometimes get a little too plodding and we sort of stay put. And that mentality is born out of some of the bad experiences that I've had when I felt like I jumped a little too early. So I guess this is just me and you here, like just give me a little advice of like, what am I missing? And like, what is a lot of the upside to kind of adopting that just leap, just say yes. Like, what are some of the big wins that you've had from that? And why is that a good philosophy?
It's not. I don't think it's a good philosophy. Like my husband, I don't know why he's still with me because I will shoot from the hip in like 30 seconds, and he's like, "Stop, patience," and I'm like, "I don't understand." La 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 la. But like I have in my older age gotten a lot more conservative than I used to be because I would do any business, like selling oils. I didn't care what it was. I just was always had like a hustler mentality, fortunately and unfortunately. So to your point though. I respect people who are kind of slow to pull the trigger because I think that when you do something, you are so totally amazing at it. Like my husband I love my husband. He very, very slow to pull the trigger on certain things, but he is the most dedicated, like ethical business owner, period. Yeah. Like he'll build it nice and slow. And he'll get to the promised land. Like I done been through 15 million things, but he'll get to the promised land the same time as me doing one thing. So I appreciate and recognize that is it's not a character flaw because the only thing I would say with people who are take a little more reserved is to actually do something though. Don't ever not do something. When you do something, even if it takes you longer, you'll be great at it. I mean, I'm thinking about several people that I've talked to. And they talked to me about it 5 years ago. They're like, I started my business. I make $1 million. I'm like, oh, what? Because I never thought that you would ever start. So it's not a bad thing, I don't think.
So just a quick side note. How long did you and your husband date before he proposed to you?
How long was it? Damn, I've never been asked that ever.
Well, you just said that he's like really slow and really plodding or whatever. I'm just like waiting for you to be like, but whenever he met me, it's like, look, we went on 3 dates.
A long time.
It was
like 3 years or 4 years. Yeah, actually, yeah, maybe 3 to 4 years.
There you go. Well, it's on brand. It's on brand, and I guess that it's just like he's
staying true to form. For all these years, yes.
Good for him. Good for him. So anyway, I know that you started to get some stuff figured out about this contracting thing, and I know that now you're starting to share this with others. I guess with the course. My question about that is like, what was it that nudged you? Like, I mean, I don't know. It sounds like you got a little bit of secret sauce, and you've worked hard to gain the knowledge that you have. And so, why is it that what nudged you into like, hey, I need to share this message and, sell it via this course?
It's actually a really interesting story, ironically. So right before the world shut down, a week before, I'm a part of IVMF, of course, and we were at the Veterans Edge conference, and this is like literally March 8th. So, there was actually some people that couldn't go to that conference because of that. But I actually was getting more into the networking part of my business. Like it wasn't just bidding behind, a computer screen all day. I was trying to like network and put myself out there a little bit more to make more relationships. And I commented under someone's YouTube. I had no idea who they were. They said, I would love to do an interview with you. I get back, did the interview. And because the whole world shut down, it went viral. And so now I have a gazillion people reaching out to me like, oh my God, I want to be you. How do I do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just, like I've never been on YouTube. I've never done this. Like I have no idea. And so I started doing consultations for free for like 2 years or like a year and a half. Just whoever wanted to talk to me, I would talk to them. And of course, that becomes incredibly overwhelming. So then it kind of died down a little bit. And I I started doing a little bit of YouTube, playing with it a little bit. And I was like, maybe I should create a course. And of course, all my friends are like, oh, yes, you need to create a course because you've been through it. You've been in the field, like you scrub toilets, you mowed the lawn, like you've done all these things. And a lot of these people who are coming up are like gurus, if you will. And no, that's no disrespect, but they haven't actually done a lot of the stuff. And so, with me being a veteran and all those other things was just like an added element. And so I just started looking, how do you build a course? And I'm like, this is harder than I thought. Lord have mercy. So it took me a long time to build it. And so one thing that I am in this whole process, especially with COVID, is I wanted to get away from the government a little bit. I felt like the government was abusing me for a while. And I was like, what is this corporate supply diversity thing? And so that's corporate contracting. And so in addition to me with the veteran side and me actually working in the field and me having like 4 types of contracts simultaneously, like right now we service 11 and throughout the whole East Coast, I'm like, well, I don't know anyone that's teaching corporate contracting. Well, I know some that are talking about it, but I don't know anyone that's teaching federal, local, and corporate contracting, period. So I was like, I can do that. Let me try to do that. And so the course was born, GovCon for Winners.
So it is said that, if you want to really improve your own understanding and your own thinking is, take on the role of being a teacher. Have you found that as you develop the course material that your own level has kind of escalated as a result of doing that?
Yeah, well, of course I would have to say yes. Because there were a lot of things that I just got lucky on and I didn't follow any regulation. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, the regulation for this is this. And so, but I was following the rules. I just didn't know what the actual official rules were. So that definitely helped when I'm explaining stuff to people. I'm like, well, according to FAR, blah, 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 you can't do that because of this. Like one of the big things that I had an issue with, because I was a DOD civilian as well for a little while. And, a lot of people feel like if you're still in the military, you can't service a contract, a federal contract, and that's not true. But if you are a DOD civilian, you cannot use your SDVOSB certification. So I was like, oh, that's good to know. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm absolutely out of here immediately. There's no amount of money they can keep me with. So, and in that process of just like even my own stuff, I really learned probably more than when I was going through the course because I had been through everything. I did all this stuff myself for a long time, so.
Well, I guess as you look back kind of at this, sort of wild ride that has gotten you to this point, like what would if you had to pick out one thing that sort of is like, now that it's in the rear view mirror, something that you look back at as like, man, I was freaking in it whenever this was going on. But looking back, man, that was kind of a happy time. Do you have anything that you or get a little wistful about in your journey?
Happy time? I would say like, wow, that was pretty deep. Is last year when everyone was getting some sort of public assistance and stimulus, and there were no employees to be found on earth. Like, I know it's hard now. It was absolutely... There was no one. It was like, hello, no one. And I had a whole plan to not service our, like the contract that I got for the janitorial. We service it every year right before school starts. And I had no intention on being boots on ground. I didn't want to see that campus. And I was there every single day. And I was like, and it's a school, so I won't say it, but I was like, it's a state university. I'm like, I'm going to state university prison today because I have to be there every freaking day. Like, I cannot believe it is this hard to find people. And it was interesting. It was character building for sure. Like, but out of that, because I was working with the same contractor janitorial company that I was working with the year before, actually 2 years before. Very, very close with her. We learned so much in that process. We changed our whole strategy. And I was like, man, this almost had to happen for us to really fix this problem that we originally had the previous 2 years. And I got some more contacts out of that. And I wouldn't say happy time, but definitely character building.
Well, there's, a point of emphasis that I've been, trying to work in our, here at my company is just this idea of like, to the extent that you can groove the discipline to reflect on your own experiences and extract the useful lessons out of it. That is what's going to govern how steep of a curve you're on. And so just that's kind of been a consistent theme of everything you've been saying. And it's just really an inspiring thing to hear is like all of this stuff, you're able to look back at all these challenges, mistakes that you've made, things that were crazy. And you say it all with a smile on your face. And you're always talking about what you learned and how it helped you. And so it's just very, very, very cool to hear. So, well, I guess last thing on the course I want to find out is like, so who's like, if, who is it for? Like, who are the, like, if, somebody that's out there that's looking to, like, who is this ideal student that's going to really gain the most out of taking the course?
Ideal student is a transitioning service member who is looking to get into government contracting and utilizing the SDVOSB. Now, of course, that is like my main avatar. However, I have a lot of people that benefit from it are those who are already out of a job. They are working in their business full time, or at least about to be working in their business full time, and they're generating some revenue and they want to learn about government contracting. So of course, like I said earlier, it's federal, local, and corporate contracting. So you don't have to be you don't have to have any type of set asides or qualify for any other discipline. You can just bid on contracts, or you can just be present and be a supplier for corporate contracts.
Yeah. Well, so
it would be more entrepreneurs and current entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a very powerful accelerant. It's like taking all that information that you have gained over the years and, putting it out in the world. It's a good thing. And so it sounds like a great value as well. So, where can people find it? Let's close it out with that.
Sheenapreneur.com, SHEENAPRENEUR, Sheenapreneur.com, or you can Google GovCon for winners.
Well, we will make sure that we get all of that information in the show notes. And so I can't tell you how fun it's been to talk to you. This has been, what a wild ride, and very cool that you've taken so many lessons from it. And I really appreciate that you've come on and shared them with us. And so, I want to thank you very much for joining us. Those of you who have been listening, I appreciate you joining us as well. And I hope that you got as much out of this conversation with Sheena as I did. So Sheena, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Very fun. Love it.